So I wanted to take a moment and talk about in a recent video I made for, I guess it wasn't that recent, maybe it was a year ago that I did this video for advice for novice singers. And I talked about one of the first things that you should do is kind of be more mindful and deliberate about making choices and thinking about that as you're singing, there's lots of little choices. That singing is about making choices. Musicianship is about making choices. And while I don't sit around and do this exercise very often, this is like as a means of practice. I definitely do this live all the time. Like thinking, well, I normally do it this way, but what if I did it this way? So I thought I'd do just a little bit of that for you to kind of show you the ropes of what I mean by that, and kind of go from there. So this is my song "What If," and I'm just gonna like take a short segment of it and then focus on vocally what I'm doing differently, and just trying different things out. Hopefully you'll hear the differences between them and clear a little noise out of my throat here. What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over and go back to 11 years old and I stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I'd stop you before you got into the car? What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old and I'd stop you before you got into the car? Okay, so I could go on, and really, I'd encourage you to go on until you just can't think of another thing. And the point is not to make these, complete polar opposites from each other, some sort of star system of nothing is the same from one to another. It's fine that, and it's valuable to discover, this is something I tend to, in all of these variants, I seem to keep falling, or not falling, I tend to keep landing in this spot. So maybe on the next one, I'm going to be more deliberate about not doing that. So, in my mind, and also, you got to give yourself latitude. Like, you're just doing this for yourself. Like, if you mess up in some way as you reach for something, or like there are a couple moments there where I in trying something, I didn't really like load enough air to hit the high note, the stop you part, and I came up just a little flat. Who cares? Like the point of this exercise is to think about these choices and not kick yourself about the little, flubs in execution. Like, keep going, and do this as long as you can. So for me, like, some of the things I'm thinking about are, how tight to the grid will I be? Like, how will this feel? Like, I'm not changing the tempo in this particular version, because I was kind of letting myself loop, and even after I stopped playing guitar, I still was kind of letting myself loop in the same basic pulse. But how elastic will it be? And how rigid versus how rigid will it be? How strictly rhythmic will I make the diction? How staccato will I make the enunciation versus how legato? Will I let all the notes kind of bleed into each other, or will I let there be a lot of space? For each of the places where where the line has some movement, will I let that kind of cascade and spill, or will I let it be very regulated and sort of very stepwise and very noticeably precise? So those are the kind of things I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about a sound in my head. I'm thinking about, and then another lens to look through it is, I'm thinking about some emotions. Can I be a little more reserved? Can I be a little more sad about this? Can I be a little more intimate? So I think maybe I'll do just a couple more, and I'll kind of call out like some sense of what's different about them as I'm doing them. What? Yep, still. All right, so this one I'm going to try to be as small as I can. I'm going to try. I have a feeling that that might really ironically amplify kind of the sadness that I'm trying to maybe highlight in the lyric there. And so I'm gonna hold back and try to make it be as small but as clear as I can. So if I were doing this for real, like in a performance situation, I'd definitely be taking advantage of being right up on the grill of the mic. I'd be really letting the mic give me some body to compensate for, it would still sound very small, but it would have some richness from the proximity to the mic. And it also would make it more audible, obviously, to be right up on the mic. So it's the end of a long day, and I don't have anything to drink nearby. So here we go. So I might try it a couple times in a row. If I don't like the first time, I might and a little more, and a little less, and a little less. So let's see how that goes. Just dive in. What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old, and I'd stop you before you got into the car? So not gonna beat myself up that I didn't have enough air to make that stop you happen. So a little less. What if I could start over, go back to 11 years old, and I'd stop you before you got into the car? Okay, so a lot of these I end up having kind of a wide vibrato on car. I'm going to try to not do that this time. And although I started a little less, I chose along the way to let a few more things kind of percolate up. A little more energy for means and contrast. I kind of like that, but I'm going to choose to go a little more fully less this time. But I'm going to not whisper it quite as much. I'm going to be less, but I'm going to be a little stronger, a little more clear as I'm doing less. What if I could start over and go back to 11 years old, and I'd stop you before you got into the car. So deliberately cutting off car, letting stop you come in a little bit different location, and also be a little bit more of just its own little moment. Stop you, and then hold. So you can see kind of what I'm doing. Like, I could, again, it's actually valuable to do that for like 20 minutes in a row until you like completely run out. But in my mind, like, that is the dialogue I'm having with myself. It's a little less, but strong. And like, whatever that, I mean, that means something to me. I'm the one who said it, so it'll mean something to me as I'm doing it. Like, but to crystallize that idea and to kind of give yourself direction instead of just randomly saying, and different, and different, and different. Like, articulate it. Articulate what's different about what you're trying to do that's different. Articulate a direction for yourself. Okay, hopefully that was interesting and valuable. Hopefully that's something that you can take and do with your own singing, with your own song. It doesn't matter if it's a song you wrote or if it's a song you like singing. Like, play with it and make a bunch of choices and evaluate what you think about those choices, and think about how some of those choices also call into play having to learn or identify the strategy that you're going to have to use to support it with enough air, or the right kind of air. Like, I'm going to take a breath differently. I'm going to expend some breath just to have the sound of my breathing be part of the sound that I'm making. Or that I need more air. I need a little more gas to hit that one note, for instance, but just enough. So a whole bunch of things to think about. Hopefully that was, a good illustration of sort of overall strategy of those, that advice for novice singers. So until next time.